session. Firstly, want to thank my colleagues Alejandra and Mike, who are joining us today to support this information session. Thank you both. A couple of housekeeping. We will be recording this session. The session will go up on our website. It will run for about 40 minutes. We're going to leave time for questions at the end. If we don't get to your questions, we will respond to participants via email and update our FAQs on our website. There is an FAQ, or there is a function there for questions in the chat, so please utilize that if you do have any questions along the way, and hopefully we're able to answer all your questions through this information session today. As is customary in the City of Melbourne, we respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we meet, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Bunurong people of the Eastern Kulin, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge and honour the unbroken spiritual, cultural and political connection the Wurundjeri, Bunurong, Dja Dja Djurrung, Punurong and Wadawurrung peoples of the Eastern Kulin have to this unique place for more than 2,000 generations. Also want to acknowledge everyone that's here today that's joined us. Thank you. So just want to give a bit of an overview of the business events sponsorship program. We provide $100,000 to support business events such as conferences, showcases, workshops, seminars, exhibitions, and networking functions in the City of Melbourne municipality. Funding of up to $10,000 per applicant is available to events that include in-person attendance, have high relevance to City of Melbourne's knowledge workers, and have a vision and solution that benefits the City of Melbourne. Noting the funding for this program is $100,000. It is less than what we had in the last program, so just want to let people know that this will be a competitive grants round, so something that take into account. Which brings me to the objectives of the program, and is to support and promote quality business events that include in-person attendance that have high relevance to City of Melbourne's knowledge workers, and a vision and solution that benefits City of Melbourne. This is defined broadly as economic, social and environmental benefits. Sponsorship of up to $10,000 is available, and the funding breakdown is available for events below. So minimum of attendance of 100 to 250 people, it's up to $5,000. Minimum attendance 250 to 500 is $7,250, and attendance above 500 people is $10,000. Requested funding must be directly related to the setup and delivery cost of the proposal, and only expenditure items that have been incurred from the day after lodging the application will be eligible. Mike, I might hand over to you to share this next slide.
Thanks, Troy. So what's the offer here? The additional support and opportunities. City of Melbourne owns a variety of venues that may be of interest for your event. So they can be found on our website there, so you'll be able to use that link when you get sent the presentation. But you can look on our website too for hubs and bookable spaces. Just be aware of the catering packages for those. And of course, subject to your agreement and availability, you can use the following services. So that may be the Lord Mayor or Deputy Lord Mayor or a councillor doing a speech at your event, having City of Melbourne staff involvement, or promotion of your event through our many different marketing channels, whether that be what's on the social media, etc. So there are opportunities for you to take up.
Thanks, Mike. I think it's important to note, and just going back to that slide, that these are additional supports in addition to the funding that we're offering. So yeah, What's On has a large membership base and our social media does as well. So it's a great opportunity to really promote your programs. It's a good point you make. Thank you. So requests for funding must be directly related to the setup and delivery costs of the proposal. So only expenditure items that have been incurred after your application has been approved will be considered. So for hybrid events, City of Melbourne's funding will apply for the live aspect of these events. Business event sponsorship must contribute directly to one or more of the following: your setup costs, logistics, venue hire, catering, presenters and speakers, production, audio-visual costs, marketing, and any other event enhancing expenditure that is in addition to the core program must be agreed in writing with City of Melbourne. Operational expenses, what we won't fund is operational expenses such as office rental payments, utilities, wages and expenses that are not directly related to the delivery of an event, applications that don't meet the eligibility or assessment criteria, and expenditure items incurred prior to the approval of the application of funding. So where are we at in terms of key dates? So applications for this program opened on Tuesday, the 22nd of August at 9 a.m. We've got our online information session happening as we speak, and applications will close on Monday, the 25th of September at midday. That gives a little bit of time, I guess, if there's any issues that you're experiencing in uploading documents, to get in contact with us during business hours through our business funding email or the telephone number that will be provided at the end. So yeah, certainly from our perspective, I guess we're wanting to give you a bit of time there, but we do recommend that you make your applications as early as possible and submit them. There is an assessment and approval process that will take place. That'll take place over October and November. It will go through a council process as well, like for final approval, and successful applicants will be publicly announced after letters of agreements are in place. Mike, I'll hand over to you in relation to the eligibility criteria.
Yeah, so just on the eligibility criteria, so obviously the types of event, the type of event that you're hosting, so a multi-day program, conference, exhibition, pitch competition, showcase, your demonstration, networking event, obviously with that minimum of 100 people. The event location needs to be within the City of Melbourne municipal boundaries. Troy, do you want to actually just quickly go to the next slide for that, and that I can come back to the rest of so the municipal boundary there is obviously that's our municipality. So you've got everything from the CBD in the middle there down to the southeast around South Yarra, parts of South Yarra. It's not all, so just be mindful of that. There is a link on our webpage where you can go to an interactive map to determine some of these boundaries. So East Melbourne, Carlton, Parkville, Flemington, Kensington, they all have sections of their suburb that are in the City of Melbourne. So Port Melbourne as well. It's important just to check that to make sure that the location that you're hosting the event, if it's on the periphery of the CBD, is within the municipal boundary. Just go back to the previous one there. Thanks, Troy. So obviously you need a valid Australian business number, ABN, be an Australian registered business, sole trader, company, business cooperative or partnership, and have to provide evidence of that in your application. So there'll be an option there to upload that through the application. You can't have any outstanding acquittals or debts to the City of Melbourne. You need to be able to demonstrate your business's financial viability, the business plan, and also have your projected financial statements in there as well. You have to have up-to-date public liability and professional indemnity insurance policies, and you can't have failed to comply with any terms and conditions of any previous funding agreement or sponsorship that you've had with the City of Melbourne either. Yeah, that's the eligibility criteria. Back over to you, Troy.
Thanks, Mike. So look, I guess how to apply. The application process is through Smarty Grants. So you can go through our City of Melbourne website, We recommend reading the guidelines. There's only 2 criteria that we've really set out, and I'll go through them next. But it's important, I think, that across those, we want to make it as easy as possible for this application process. But really what we're looking at is impact of event and the quality of the event. Given we've got $100,000 to play with in terms of funding for this round, we want to make sure that we've got a great quality of events that are coming through to us. So plan and gather information for your application and complete and submit online applications via Smarty Grants. I'll be at pains to say again, it is really important that we get these applications in as early as possible, because you can experience problems in terms of putting that application in. So don't leave it to the last minute. And again, we're here to help through the application process. We want to support you through your application. So as I mentioned, there's 2 assessment criteria that we're measuring against. One is the purpose and expected impact of the event. So explain the purpose of your event, mention your target audience, and outline the main ways the event supports the program objectives. Include the expected impacts or benefits of the event in terms of economic, social, environmental benefits to the City of Melbourne. And mention specifically if your event includes collaborations with other businesses or organisations in the City of Melbourne. One thing I think we're really looking for, and when we talk about knowledge workers, it's about collaboration and sharing information, and sharing information that benefits the City of Melbourne and benefits one another. I guess we're seeing new rhythms in the city. Like, this program has been around for 10 years, but we're seeing new rhythms in the city with work from home, and people missing out on that opportunity of knowledge sharing. So we really want to have valuable events that really support our values as a council, but also what supports all of us to really develop knowledge in areas that we may not fully understand yet. So purpose and expected impact of the event is worth 50%. So there's further information on how City of Melbourne aligns to your project's impacts and benefits. They can be sourced from our council plan, our Economic Development Strategy 2031, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So again, look through that information, see how your event aligns with these values. It's really important, I think, from our perspective, to get a good sense of what's been delivered in the city, and how your event really aligns with what's available. So impact is a big part of that. Through the application process, there is some guidance that you'll see around what we're looking for inside our council plan, our economic development strategy, and the UN SDGs. So quality and viability of the event, need to demonstrate your event is well researched and planned, introduce how you'll attract your audience, mention who the main people are in the event planning team, explain briefly whether the team has a track record of delivering similar events, and summarize evidence of previous events. So really, we're looking for, again, that quality and viability, your ability to deliver on these events. So things that we'll be looking at and assessing against are, timelines of your project, Gantt charts. It's a good thing to put in there. Project plans, marketing strategies. If you've got promotional plans, that's great. They'll certainly provide strength to this response as attachments, and there is room in the application process to be able to put these in as attachments. Mike, I might hand over to you for the next slide.
Yep. So in terms of lobbying or canvassing, so if you are actually successful in your grant application and we fund your event, under no circumstances can there be sort of any lobbying or canvassing of council staff, councillors, the assessors in relation to your application. So that's absolutely prohibited. So please make sure that once you've been successful, you go about your event and carry on. If there's any liaising with obviously having the Lord Mayor or the Deputy Lord Mayor or that speaking at your event, then your relevant point of contact at the City of Melbourne can help you with all of that and help to I guess in terms of some of those additional benefits that we can provide or additional support that we can provide, we can liaise with you on all of that. The outcome notification, so you will be notified through Smarty Grants. There's no sort of reimbursement for the time you spend on an application. That's, as Troy said, we try to make that process as simple as possible. But given the funding amounts that there are, and it is a competitive round, so there will be successful and unsuccessful. All those that are unsuccessful will be notified in due course once the sort of final decisions are made and funding agreements with those that have been successful are organised. Have I got the next one to Troy? Thank you. In terms of where to go next, if you have any further questions, you can watch this back again. We're recording will go up on the website, but the program, in terms of the program itself and the funding and guidelines, you can contact us. That's myself, Troy, and Ellie, and the business funding team. The email's there. You can give our customer relations a call and ask to speak to someone in business funding as well. If there's issues with your application through Smarty Grants or you're having technical issues there, that it is best to contact them directly. They do have a really great support desk there. You can email them or contact them during business hours, Monday to Friday, and they can help you if there's any issues with uploading a document or something around the application not going through or not submitting at the end or something like that. So, and as Troy said before, like being sure to kind of get your application at least almost complete with days before the closing date. You don't want to be stuck at the last minute trying to upload a bunch of documents and having a technical issue doing that. So do make sure that you get in early with those applications.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so I guess in terms of what are the next steps, I guess if you're successful with a round, obviously we'd make contact when we'll make contact when that goes through council process, letter of agreement comes through, and then you're allotted a business funding officer, which kind of goes to the point that Mike made. And that business funding officer will be able to take you through that process of connecting with the city in terms of speeches for councillors, who's going to be speaking at the event, how to promote internally through City of Melbourne. And then there's some opportunities for that post kind of social media as well. So I wanted to share with you some of our previous recipients and just the type of work that they do. I guess we've gone from everything from national organisations like the Australian Dental, which is in the top left-hand corner, to more small and bespoke businesses. So we go from 500 people events to 100 people events, but each in their own way really offer something in terms of support for our city. We saw earlier one from 17X. You can see, I guess, the second slide across here is Zero Carbon Sports. It's a really good example, I think, where some thinking and discussion came to bear for a lot of sporting groups at that meeting, and there was a lot of opportunity for knowledge sharing amongst sporting groups to be able to take back and how they can reduce their carbon emissions and move towards zero carbon. So it's, this is where we talk about, I guess, those opportunities to share knowledge and connect with knowledge workers, and also to help shape our city for the future, like and the opportunities, not just within our municipality, but within Melbourne, Greater Melbourne as well. So you can see there, I guess there's other events that we had in terms of pitch nights, other events in terms of release of documents such as the Committee for Melbourne report, and multiple events in terms of expos as well. Like, so lots of collaboration kind of happening there in terms of previous recipients. So big, small, it's size doesn't make the difference for us. The difference is really in terms of meeting those kind of guidelines that we've mentioned. I'm not going to present too much more in terms of what we're doing in terms of the program. I think that kind of captures what we're asking, but I will open it up to questions, and I'll hand over to colleague Alejandra to look at the chat and maybe provide some of those questions that are coming through.
Thank you, Troy and Mike. Yes, we do have a couple of questions on the chat and also a few that came earlier via the business funding inbox. So let's start with the ones on the chat. So one of the questions is, does it include award events? Example, industry awards. Are those eligible?
In terms of in the past, I think we have had award events as part of the application, but they really need to be able to weave into the criteria that we're looking to assess on. So, you know, if I go back to what we're looking at quality of the event. So yes, you may fit into that. But I guess impact on the city of Melbourne is really a question that we're asking there. So yeah, it's how does that awards night really help to make an impact on the city of Melbourne and share information with knowledge workers in the city? You just need to be able to capture that. Remembering there's only 2 criteria for here, so that's 50% for both. So you need to be able to meet that as an application. So technically, yes, is the answer. However, just being mindful, what are the elements that fit the criteria in terms of your event?
Thank you. Another question, do you prefer events that address certain social issues?
It comes back to the criteria again. That's what we're looking for is events that kind of help our knowledge workers connect to one another. So what we've seen, I guess, in terms of some initial reporting out of post-COVID is that there is an impact on knowledge workers in terms of being able to gain information and talking to stakeholders. We've seen some impacts in terms of knowledge of emerging technology and emerging trends. And what we really want to do is create opportunity for our ecosystem to connect and share knowledge and share those trends, like and have that water cooler conversation that might not exist in a working from home type environment. But yeah, I would also recommend looking at our council plan and looking at our economic development strategy and seeing where, I guess, when you're talking about social issues, like how that aligns to our economic development strategy, how that aligns to our council plan, and how that aligns to the SDGs.
Thank you. Now I'm just going to move to the ones we received via the business funding inbox. Could I apply for more than one event? I'm running a few events next year. Can I send an application for each event or one for all of them?
So you can make one application per ABN. So if you're wanting to make multiple applications within your grants round for your funding, you can. Yeah, it depends on what the question is. So if you've got a number of events to meet a number of, let's say, 500 people to get $10,000 worth of funding, and you want to run your event across 3 different events, the answer is yes, you can do that. But there's 1 application per business.
Thank you. My event received funding last year. Can I still apply for my next year event?
It's a great question. So yes, as long as you've acquitted your grant from the last round, there's no issues with making a new application with us. So with the business events funding program, the funds are received up front for your event. So there's not a 90-10% split or an 80-20% split. You get 100% of that funding up front because we want to help you to get your event up and running as quickly as possible. However, what that can do is it can leave a gap in terms of acquittal, but it is a requirement for us to have a acquittal completed for each application. So yes, as long as you've completed that acquittal, there's certainly no issues with applying again.
Thank you. The last 2 questions are a little bit more technical. So one is, I've made a mistake in my application. Can you fix it, or can I retrieve the application and correct that mistake?
So our recommendation is to start a new application. We can't make any changes to your application. Once the application is in train and commenced, that's where it's up to. So our recommendation would be to make a note in that application that you've made a mistake and to commence a new application. And then through our due diligence phase, we'll knock off the first one and move to the second one.
Thank you. And the final one is, what if I run out of time and need some extra minutes to finish my application?
Yeah, it's a good question. Thanks, Ali. So look, that's why we put a 12 o'clock deadline on for the 25th, Monday the 25th. We do understand that things can happen. Like there can be technical issues or there can be personal issues that are impacting your application. We'll take it on a case-by-case scenario, but what we won't open for longer is someone that's commenced their application around that time. Like you need to have already commenced your application within enough time to put your application in. I think this is a real point that I just want to make, is that the earlier you get through that application process, the better, because there are questions around financials, around planning. There may be other documents that you need to obtain. So if you contact me at 12 o'clock on Monday and say, I've just started my application and realize there's a lot to this, the answer would probably be no.
And just to add to that, a recommendation that uploading documents on Smarty Grants can take about a few minutes. So if you need to upload your financials, your certificate or currency and all that, that can take up some minutes. And so, yes, totally recommended to start the application as early as possible.
Yeah, and we need to be fair to those that have met the time frame in terms of when the application is opened. As I mentioned, this application's currently open. So yeah, take that time to do that as quickly as possible.
That is pretty much all the questions we had.
That's fantastic. Look, thank you, everyone. We've hit the 30-minute mark, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to sit with us today and learn a bit more about our grants program. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.